This is the Newsload.
Hi there. This is Brian Baker again for another episode of Conspiracy Crush. And I have a wonderful guest with us today, Alison Meek. She is Dr. Alison Meek, as an associate professor in history at King's University College at the University of Western Ontario. I'm going to let her discuss what her background is, but she's got a unique perspective on conspiracy theories in general, and has done a lot of research and work on the phenomenon as it's progressing today. And thank you so much for joining us, Alison.
Well, thank you for having me.
I really do appreciate it. And maybe we can just start with you giving us a quick, sort of catch up as to how you got, I know you started as wanting to be a dancer. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and then bring us up to the present, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So my career's kind of taken a weird little twists and turns over the years. So when I was growing up, like most kids, mom and dad put me into various clubs and all the rest of it just to keep me occupied. I'm sure to keep me out of the house and all the rest of that sort of. And it was pretty much dance that stuck. So I danced throughout grade school, public school, high school, we used to have grade 13, between grade 12 and grade 13, spent some time at the BAMP Center. And then after graduating high school, I went over to London, England, and studied professionally over there. But I missed the academics. And so the qualification for going was I had to be accepted to university, defer it, and had that fallback. So came back and started. So I went to U of T, the University of Toronto, all the way through with a focus on American history. It was American foreign policy. But then when I got the job in 2001 at King's University College, which is just an extraordinary liberal arts college here in London, it was a small enough department that as the only Americanist, I had free reign to sort of put on the courses that I liked. So I taught courses in American popular culture.
Wonderful. Creative freedom. That's you're talking really my language. Is. That's wonderful. Yeah, keep going.
It is, absolutely. And then I started to teach because I actually started at King's the week of 9/11. I had started the Thursday, and then that was the Tuesday, and then sort of started teaching a course on extremists and cults and terrorists. And then out of that had some students who were, questioning some of the narratives and thought, it would be really interesting to teach a course on conspiracy theories. And so developed that. And the course goes all the way from looking at the Freemasons and the Illuminati, some of the first conspiracy theories. We deal with Pearl Harbor, John F. Kennedy, moon landing, New World Order, Satanic Panic. We just did 9/11 today. And then we'll end next week by looking at the Barack Obama conspiracy theory. So the birther conspiracy theory, and then Sandy Hook, of course. So, yeah, so that's my bizarre career to bring it to the present day.
What jumps to mind, my fiance and I just finished watching on Netflix Mike Myers comedy series called The Passepartout. Have you heard of it or seen it yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh my God, Alison, you got to check it out. It is so amazing because he takes on, using this is what the Newsload's all about, using comedy to pinpoint truth, and he takes on conspiracy theories in a very direct and amusing way. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Good. Yeah. Oh, I will definitely look that up then. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's in the style of Austin Powers.
Okay.
So it's good stuff. But
good.
So yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing us up to speed, and certainly you touched on some very serious world events there, and so when you started talking about and researching and thinking deeply about conspiracy theories, conspiracies have always been with humanity. Do you want to, maybe you can touch on the history of it, and then maybe pivot into at least, my preface would be that social media has really changed it. If you agree or disagree with that, I'd really love to hear your opinion. But can you just sort of pick up how long conspiracy theories have been with us, what form they took, and what form they're taking now?
Yeah, for sure. So you're right. Conspiracy theories have always existed. They've They came to the United States, certainly very early in the 1800s, and focused on the secret societies. So the Freemasons, the Illuminati, that there were these secret societies actually controlling the federal government. And that's one of the key themes that you see throughout so many conspiracy theories, is that we are not democratic, we are not free, that our elections are stolen. And that fits into John F. Kennedy and JFK and Kennedy and 9/11 and all the rest of it.
Right.
My approach to conspiracy theories is, and it's partly what you were getting at with the internet, is literature and internet literacy, because again, so much of these exist online. And so there's three themes that we constantly come back to in the class. The first is looking at authorship. So who's actually making these conspiracy theories? Are they experts in the field? What is their background? Are they trying to make money? Is this about fame? Sort of what's really going on with who's pushing the conspiracy theories. The second thing we look at, of course, is evidence. And it's a deep dive into evidence analysis. So when you're looking at the conspiracy theories, what evidence do they have? Is it circular? Do they just simply cite other conspiracy theorists and they're sort of within that echo chamber? One of the big things we see a lot of, and you see that in print and in online, is the cherry picking of quotes. And so conspiracy theorists will pluck a phrase or pluck a sentence out of a larger quote, completely missing the context. So today we were talking about 9/11, and one of the conspiracy theorists was talking about how an eyewitness to the Pentagon said, well, it was like a cruise missile. And they use that as proof that it wasn't a plane that hit the Pentagon, it was a cruise missile. But then you go and you look at the original quote, and the person said, this was an American 757. It was flying so low, it looked like a cruise missile. So they identified it was a plane. They identified the airline. And then they said, it was just going so fast, it looked like a cruise missile. So we look at that, the evidence. Is the evidence checkable? Can you find the actual source? In history, which is my background and sort of where this course is based, we never simply rely on one type of evidence. So, because every evidence has its pros and cons. Eyewitness accounts are fantastic, but there's chaos, there's memory contagion, there's all of these things that twist it. Written documents, well, who's the audience? Is it a private diary? Is it a memo you're trying to? So evidence should have all different types of evidence. And then the third thing that we look at in the class is context, because really there's no conspiracy theory, and there's a difference between conspiracies and conspiracy theories. There's no conspiracy theory that has legitimate evidence that holds up to, again, that scrutiny of what evidence is. So then the question as a historian is, what's really going on? So it's not surprisingly, for example, a lot of Pearl Harbor conspiracy theorists and 9/11 conspiracy theorists are pacifists, because they're angry about the wars that follow. Many of the Kennedy conspiracy theorists and the early groups believe that, if Kennedy had lived, there would have been no Vietnam, civil rights rebellions, all of that sort of stuff. So what's the bigger context that's going on that make these conspiracy theories important historically? And again, as a way to get at history. So the issue of the internet, absolutely. Again, conspiracy theories have always existed in print. Political parties have pushed them. You have in-person meetings and all the rest of it. The internet has just taken us to the stratosphere because it is free. And one of the things I try to get the students to do, you see an online post, who's made it? Can you verify that you, Brian, were the one who actually made that? Or is it some random name followed by random numbers? Is this an actual person? Is it a bot? Is it a troll? Is it Russian disinformation? And the internet sort of adds that whole twist to it.
If I could jump in,
Yeah,
just the thing that you mentioned the previous motivation for a conspiracy theory was a larger sort of issue, or in the examples that you gave, because this happened and therefore the war happened that I disagree with. what's happened with the internet, it seems, is that a new motivator has come in, which is I can make a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Can you speak to that? I mean, that seems like one of the biggest, everything's about incentives. When I look at any kind of business opportunity or look at who I can trust in this world, I always keep an eye on what's the incentive for them to be talking to me or saying something to me. Incentives, you can learn a lot about a motive by tracing the incentive.
Oh, very much. And again, as you said, the internet has taken that to a whole new level. But even before that, for example, with the anti-vaccine conspiracy theories, it's, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, 1998, publishes that article in the Lancet arguing that vaccines cause autism. It gets retracted. He loses his medical license. He did that because he was developing his own vaccine and he needed to discredit the one that was out there. So there was money to be made that way. Right. There was a study that just came out of Montreal, a center in Montreal, that talks about the anti-vax movement. The conspiracy theories are pushed by what they call the disinformation dozen. And these are 12 individuals who are making millions of dollars in their Substack, people signing up for that, or buy this diet supplement or this homeopathic cure or something like that. And I always find it ironic because we're always accused of being the pharma shills, that somehow we're the ones who are making this money. And my response is, if anybody knows, the finance department of Big Pharma, I'd really like my checks because I've got some house renovations to do because I've never made a penny. So there's money. I do think for some, and for some conspiracy theories, there's the difference between those who push them, who, again, the Alex Jones, the Robert Kennedy Jr.'s, the Wakefields, the ones that we're seeing today. And then I think just average people who get caught up in them. Yeah. That, right? You get caught up, you get down that rabbit hole, you get pulled into that echo chamber. And you, I suspect, probably when you were in this world, were not making money. You become that believer. So I think there's that difference.
No, it cost me a lot of money because I started retrofitting my house for apocalypse that thankfully never came. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's here in Canada right now, we've got this woman who has declared herself the Queen of Canada. Queen Romano Didelot, who is arguing that we do not have to follow any laws, that our money is fake. People are losing their homes because they're not paying their mortgages. Yeah. They're losing custody of their kids because they're not following. So there's a real cost for the followers, but absolutely the internet, you get the clicks, you get this, the come and sort of sign up for my newsletter for only $6.95 a month or something. There's a lot of money for sure.
What I want to jump on with that is the part of this that always, I really always want to shine a light on because it's so counterintuitive to a good person's heart, right? Is that, the people that are making all the money off of the anti-vax, the people that are, these people do not care about the damage they're doing to the lives of so many other people. I mean, what's your take on that level of just, I don't know, I don't want to use the word evil, but holy crap, man. I mean, people are dying, especially when it comes to vaccines, that level, it's hard to accept that there's people out there that really, they not only don't care, they will push a theory that they know is wrong in order to line their pockets. I mean, that's a whole, that is evil. I mean, let's face it, that's evil.
Oh, for sure. And again, we've had a long history of snake oil salesmen that in many ways, I think some of these conspiracy theories are fitting into. People see an opportunity to make $1. P.T. Barnum, there's a sucker born every minute, right? Yeah. And sort of knowing how to capitalize. And so when we look at the psychology of conspiracy theories, and again, that we were talking about this today with 9/11, one of the things conspiracy theories do is they do tend to emerge and certainly become more mainstream in times of crisis, because conspiracy theories offer very simple answers to very complicated questions, and they give you a bad guy. So instead of 9/11 being a complicated geopolitical issue about the politics of the Middle East and about the internal situation in Saudi Arabia, you can say, ooh, George Bush is bad. And let's hold him accountable. Or, the stuff that you're seeing today with QAnon, instead of the big issue of the pandemic and economic dislocation and micro and macroeconomics, you can say, ooh, Hillary Clinton needs to go to Guantanamo Bay. And it becomes a very simple answer for a very complicated problem. Autism, we're still trying to figure out where autism comes from. Don't take the vaccine, right? And again, it's a simple element because we as humans don't like not knowing. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah, I was going to say in marketing, they always said that marketing needs to be three things. It needs to be simple, certain, and flattering.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's some science out there that shows that certain brains are just very bad at seeing gray, right? Certain brains these days with neuroplasticity, brains change and based on your environment, of course, but so it's not set in stone. But I mean, the point is that some brains are just very bad at seeing nuance, bad at seeing grays. Things have to be black, they have to be white. And it's really hard for these folks to see it any other way. I've certainly bumped into people that you try to explain nuance to them and their eyes just glaze over. They just can't. They would need to do a work to build those neural pathways to actually conceptualize those types of more complicated answers.
Yeah, and I also think conspiracy theorists, again, talking about the propagandists, the grifters, as I sort of call them in class, they also are very good at playing upon people's emotions and fears. Because I suspect outside of, again, the disinformation and the big anti-vaxxers, what parent wouldn't think, oh my gosh, I don't want to poison my child? Or, there's a pedophile ring that I have to go find. And this is, again, what these grifters do is they manipulate because they know people are scared. People are wanting to do good. People are wanting to do no harm. And they know how to bring you into it. They know how to profile those that are going to follow their conspiracy theories. And it's frightening how brilliant it is in terms of they know, again, at that level, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, fear, right? They use fear on as a scalpel and as a club, depending on. But they're masters of manipulating the fear of the people that they want to rope in, and I mean, I guess this is a natural sort of segue into something I wanted to ask you, which is, I heard this on CBC radio the other day that you can't fact someone over the head. Fact as a verb. So trying to get facted. People are you can't change minds by facting someone. They'll just rebel and what have you. So the question is in your experience, based on what you've learned, what is the best way to try and help someone come back from a conspiracy theory?
It's a fascinating question, and it's the one we end with in every of the seminar parts of the conspiracy class is what brings people in, how do you get people out? And I think whomever was doing that interview on CBC is absolutely right. And the data shows this, the evidence shows this, that if it was just about facts, we wouldn't have conspiracy theories because conspiracy theories are not rooted in facts, they're twisted. And
just as a little sideline, I mean, sometimes these conspiracy theories are just so out there. It's you're amazed that people actually believe it. So it's amazing how the human brain will work to believe something it needs to believe in any circumstance. But please continue.
Absolutely, and again, studies have shown that people that tend to believe one conspiracy theory tend to believe multiple conspiracy theories, that one might bring them in, and then they're in that community. So again, there's something bigger going on. And I think one of the things you need to do is, instead of talking to a conspiracy theorist, someone who is in that rabbit hole, who's in that echo chamber, is partly you listen, and then partly you ask the questions about well, where did you get your information? Why is it that you believe Alex Jones about vaccines as opposed to your pediatrician about vaccines? Why do you believe your hairdresser over an expert on something like this? Or to say, well, that evidence, well, what about, as opposed to no, you're wrong, that what about? And I think the other thing, and this to me is one of the fascinating, scary overlaps between my two courses, the one on cults and the one on conspiracy theories, is I think the other thing conspiracy theories tend to do is they tend to provide people with a community. People might be feeling ostracized. And so now they're in a community of like-minded individuals. They're not the crazy uncle yelling at the Thanksgiving dinner, being told, oh, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. They're getting that validation. And so I think we've got to make sure that people understand if they've gone into this world and they come out, they're not going to be ostracized. I think the worst thing you could do is to say to somebody, well, I told you so. I told you you were wrong. You were just being stupid. It's, again, to understand that something sucked them into this. And again, whether
it's so you mentioned this, it's just so sophisticated now. When I got sucked in, it was like it was stones and clubs. These days, it's like scalpels and drills. It's like the tool chest that they have these days compared to when I got roped in is just so sophisticated.
It is. And one of the other fascinating things, again, when you study conspiracy theories and you look at them across, again, moon landing to 9/11 to the birther movement, the really smart conspiracy theorists, again, that top level, know how to say, I'm just asking questions. Yeah. Have you thought about, and instead of asking a legitimate question, because when you ask a legitimate question, you're willing to accept the answer, even if it disagrees with you, because that's what an answer is. They're very good at asking these questions.
That's Tucker Carlson's MO.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And this is really the normal way of doing things is, everybody else is talking to you. Let's just explore this. Or have you thought about? And they know how to do that as much as those of us trying to, again, counter and debunk some of the conspiracy theories.
So it's important, I think, that I ask this question, and I think that this is especially since when you fight in conspiracies and fighting conspiracy theories, you get labeled as the sellout or the bought off or paid for. So one of the reasons I know that you're not showing your face in this interview is because you don't, being in the study that you're in and doing the work. I know that you fight conspiracy theories on your Twitter feed and such, and I would encourage viewers to check that out. It's very informative. But can you just tell me why you are hesitant to promote your face in the public forum? And I think that might be good information for our viewers.
Yes, and again, I don't want to over exaggerate this because I'm not out there the way, especially in the anti-vax, fighting the anti-vax, some of the doctors are, and the Anthony Fauci's and all the rest of it. But because, again, we don't know who it is that we're fighting online. We don't know the mental state of those that we're fighting online. And let me have as a caveat, very, very few conspiracy theorists are mentally ill. That's really not part of the psychology. What the fear is that what we call the lone wolf, what we call the stochastic terrorism, that those individuals who believe that there really is harm being done to children through vaccines, or there very much is this plot to take over the government, and that nobody's doing anything. And they've been radicalized in this world of conspiracy theories, and even other conspiracy theories. Well, they're just all talk, or they're just, the doomsday preppers. They're not actually doing anything. And you get those avengers, and they're the ones who, again, they go off. And that was Pizzagate. You had a young man showing up with an assault rifle in a restaurant in Washington, D.C., convinced because of the online indoctrination that there was a pedophile ring. And I think particularly being a woman online. I mean, online is bad enough with sort of the vitriol that you get and all the rest of it. But being a woman online is another level to that. I'm not Jewish, but if I was, that would add a third level. There's a doctor, a public health official in Ottawa who's both female and Jewish and is very open. And she gets all of these private messages, but also tweets saying, we need to finish the Holocaust. Your family needs to burn in the showers. And just sort of that violence. And the FBI in 2019 has begun to classify some conspiracy theories as domestic terrorist threats because of the violence that, again, specific individuals, and I again, I don't mean to blow this up, that everybody who believes in QAnon is going to go violent, but it just takes that one. And so I've just learned to be a little bit more cautious because of that. And again, I've never gotten the Anthony Fauci death threats or the doctor's death threats. But some of the comments just sort of make you think, and every once in a while, and you'll see this on Twitter, those of us that are part of this debunking, this we put our Twitter on private because it's just gotten too much. And the backlash has just gotten too much.
I mean, yeah. And to just boil it down, it's scary and it's getting worse. I mean, what else? It's getting worse, and there doesn't seem to be any floor for how bad it could potentially get when it comes to this. And this brings to mind, too, I mean, this is one of the things that I thought a lot about back during the 9/11 attack. You know, it was always, these are fundamentalists, and you know, good people are capable of doing all kinds of very evil things when they're 100% sure that they're right. Anytime a human being becomes 100% sure they're right on anything, it's dangerous. I've always said that, you know, you got to leave that 1%, you know, because that little bit of doubt will prevent you from going down rabbit holes. I mean, there's one thing if there's one thing we do know 100% is that no one knows anything 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's I think almost every academic has it. There's a very famous Far Side cartoon where it's a person sitting in a library, you know, PhD, and all the books are mocking them because they have, you know, all this information they don't know. I love the class when the students walk out with more questions than answers, because you get them thinking about different ways of looking at stuff. But yeah, this is the problem, is, again, people get into those rabbit holes, they get into those echo chambers, and they're not getting somebody saying, yes, but what about? How about this other side? And then when they feel that nothing is being done, or that, again, you know, they want to save the children, and they're the on the ground. I mean, I think that's a big part of it too, as opposed to the grifters. That's where some of the dangers. And so, you know, we've had attempted murders. We've had a father who got sucked into the QAnon reptilian overlord and killed his kids because he believed that they had this blood within them. But those are identifiable, but it's out there. And so that's just where my caution comes in.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, these people all think they're the good guy of the story.
Yes. And that's the point that I was trying to make earlier, is I truly do believe, because this is what helps us to get people out, is there's a difference between the true believers, because, again, they're missing something or they've got an emotional connection, versus the Andrew Wakefield, the Alex Jones. Alex Jones has said in his divorce deposition that this is all just entertainment. Yeah. Fox News right now, Robert Murdoch, right, saying, oh, yeah, no, we knew we were pushing lies. But then we get January 6th. That's the problem with when you sort of, this, as you said, gets that bigger audience.
Isn't that something, eh? I mean, yeah, that the recent news about the Fox anchors knowing that it was all bullshit and saying it anyways. Just as a final, we're almost out of time, but just as a final, you know, what quick advice? I mean, we've already sort of touched on this, I guess, but what quick advice would you give to folks that have loved ones that are going down the rabbit hole? I mean, anything that you could tell them that they could use to help their loved one?
I think to some degree, and it sounds quite simple, is don't give up. keep the doors open, keep the lines of communications open. So, if your loved one is constantly sending you a post from Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones, don't just delete it. Maybe try to engage with them. And this gets exhausting because, again, conspiracy theorists are very good at moving the goalpost. But don't push them even further thinking, well, nobody listens to them or people think that they're crazy. Have that patience, have that open heart, that open mind. And then, again, try to figure out why they believe what they believe, and that's having that dialogue that existed. I don't think it's brainwashing. I mean, I've got problems with that terminology anyways, but it's something's brought them in. So try to identify that as a way to help them to get out.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, it's such an important topic these days, and it's just going to get more and more relevant, I think, unfortunately, as time goes on. And but thank you so much, Alison. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
This is the Newsload.